Welcome to World School TV with your host, Trina Baldwin. We all share a common passion of travel, and we all share the same desire to educate our kids through the world of travel. And you know what? We all share the same fears as well. So let's blast those fears away and confidently commence or continue our world schooling adventure. Each week we'll be chatting with guests about all things world schooling. We'll be covering travel destinations and events, education options for our kids. We'll talk about what it takes to get going and what it takes to keep going. On World School TV, we're here to support you in every possible way.
Welcome to World School TV. I'm your host, Trina Baldwin. My guest on today's show is Karen Ricks. Karen was one of the first people I interviewed for World School TV, and I was so excited to get going that I totally forgot to introduce her. So here we go. Karen describes herself as a Christian wife, world schooling mum, and a nomadic chef. She's been teaching for 22 years and has been a Montessorian since her own preschool days, now holding Montessori teaching certificates for guiding children from infancy through to elementary school. She's cooked professionally in restaurants, commercial kitchens, and private homes on 4 different continents across the globe. After 10 years of teaching in central Japan, where Karen and her family owned and operated their own international Montessori school, they sold it all to begin a nomadic life of full-time travel and are currently based in Albania. Karen is going to share with us today a bit about Albania as a world schooling destination, along with her love of all things food. I have no doubt you'll see the passion shine through, just like I did. Okay, so welcome to World School TV, everyone. Tonight I've got the amazing Karen Ricks on board with me. Karen first piqued my interest when I saw her online, and she said that she was in a country called Albania. Now, I'd heard of Albania before, but it had never really crossed my radar as a destination. And seeing her passion for the country and her passion for a lot of other things as well, which we'll get into tonight, I really wanted to get on and have a chat to her. So thank you so much for coming on, Karen. It's great to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yay. So look, please let's hear a little bit about you and your family and how you got started in the world schooling journey.
Sure. Well, world schooling was actually a term that I learned so much later in our journey. In fact, as I look back on it now, I could even say that I was world schooled as a child, decades before I'd ever heard anything about such things as world schooling or knew a large community of homeschoolers or home educated families or anything about the sort of alternative schooling world that I feel like I've been thrust into now. But for my family specifically, I would say our adventures really began when my husband and I left the United States back in 2007 to live and work in Japan. My husband was recruited as an English language teacher for the largest English language conversation school in the country at that time. And it was going to be this exciting adventure for the two of us, something that we were going to do for a year, maybe 2 if we really liked it. And we absolutely fell in love with it. We ended up living in Japan for 10 years.
Wow.
We owned and operated our own international Montessori school there, which is where we raised our son for the first 6 years of his life. Our son was born in Japan, and we just began this marvelous, incredible, amazing, unbelievable adventure. It was all these things that I had never anticipated doing in the way that we ended up doing them. So that's really kind of where we got started.
Fantastic. So when you talk about the way that you ended up doing them, what sort of way did you end up doing it?
Well, I had always known that I wanted to homeschool, but I had been teaching in the United States for over a decade before we even moved to Japan. And so I always thought that, well, we would go to Japan and then maybe come back and have a child then and then start the process after that.
Mm-hmm.
But when our son was born in Japan, and then we were there in Japan for the big earthquake and tsunami in
All right.
2011. Everything really changed. And my husband and I looked at each other and we decided, this is not the sort of thing that we want to wait to do. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or next week or next month. And so we were really all in. That happened in March of 2011. And the very next month was when we opened the doors to our school. And our
Wow.
son was 4 months old at the time. So it was
Wow.
way ahead of schedule. All in the country even that we had anticipated, beginning our homeschooling, world schooling journey. But that was how and when it got started. And so I really like to encourage anybody who's considering homeschooling, world schooling, any sort of massive life change, adventure, pursuing of your passions, to really do it before you're ready, because that's exactly what we did then, and that's what we continue to do to this day.
Fantastic. I love that. Do it before you're ready, because really there's never a perfect time for anything, is there?
Absolutely not. There never is.
Yeah. Perfect time is when the inspiration strikes, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So you spent 10 years in Japan, and then what happened that you left Japan?
I actually received the most incredible opportunity to attend this culinary program in Italy. This was an exclusive 3-month program for food and cooking professionals from all over the world. And it was the sort of thing that was just too good to pass up. The sort of thing that I thought, oh, when the opportunity first presented itself, I was really like, oh, wow, wouldn't it be nice if someday possibly I could, sort of thing. And so when I received the invitation to actually be a part of that cohort, there's only 12 people. And I thought, no way. Well, okay. The decision really went from, wouldn't it be nice if someday, to, okay, how do we make this happen now?
Love it.
And so really it was, like I said, another big drastic upheaval, but we started before we were ready.
Yeah.
And we sold and gave away and gifted and threw out all sorts of stuff. Like I said, literally divesting ourselves of the life and the school communities that we had built up over a decade in Japan to pick up our lives and move to Italy.
To follow your passion.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
really did.
Yeah. So how long had food been your passion up until then? Because it was obviously a very strong passion to take you all the way from Japan after 10 years to Italy.
Yes. I can honestly say that I have been a food lover all of my life. I started cooking as a child. I remember beginning cooking family meals, when I was only like 6 or 7 years old. In fact, my mother specifically asked me, what did you want to make or do? And I said, oh, I really love this. I don't even remember what the specific dish was. And I said, will you teach me how to make it? And she said, well, you know how to read and follow directions. The cookbooks are over there. Have at it. I am forever grateful, because that sort of independence is the sort of thing that my mother has always nurtured in me and in my siblings. And so it was a wonderful gift that I am really honored to be able to pass on to my child and all of the children that I teach.
Yeah. So it is a thing that you're spreading throughout the world, isn't
It really
it?
is delightful too to see just how far and wide those teachings are really starting to spread. It's really exciting.
Oh, fantastic. So I've got to ask, you've got to tell me about Albania. How did you end up in Albania?
That is a great question. And it's something that people ask us all the time. We have literally circled the globe in the last 2 years of traveling the world full time. And Albania was one of those places, like you said in your intro, that I'd heard of it, but I really would have needed help to locate it on a map. It just
Mm.
seemed crazy to think now that we're living here, when, I would have needed help to find it before geographically. One of the things that I really, really love about this wild and wonderful world schooling adventure that we're on is that we have the opportunity to meet so many amazing people.
Mm.
And it was through one of those contacts that I met online that we discovered Albania. So I have been teaching and cooking for a long time. And in that place, when we left Japan and transitioned to Italy, I really started to take the teaching and the cooking from outside the four walls of the school that we had founded, and really transitioning to creating this online learning space that has become our kitchen classroom. And in the process of developing our kitchen classroom as a truly global virtual classroom, I began working with my friend and business mentor, Adriana Monique Alvarez. And she and her family had been living here in Albania for part of the time that we had been working together. And it was literally my family and I were in Mexico over the summer. We were relaxing and enjoying beautiful beaches and great food and the wonderful weather. And I was listening to her saying the exact same things about Albania. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Not one of those places I would have ever considered living or moving or, even traveling as a tourist. It just
Mm.
wasn't one of those places that was on our radar. And so it was one of those things I just kind of made a note of, mark that down. And yeah, maybe someday if we happen to be, in or around the Eastern European region, we might check it out. Well, a year later, and it was our second time through Italy. My family and I were spending some time in Tuscany, and we were debating, well, where should we go next? What do we want to do from here? And we pull up a map and we were talking about it. We said, oh, hey, Albania. Remember, we were talking about that last year, and it's literally just on the other side of the Adriatic from here. And so we looked at each other and we said, well, Monique said that this was a really great place for digital nomads, for families, for people who love food. I said, check, check, and check. What do you say? And we all agreed, yeah, let's go check it out. And so, unlike any of the other places to which we were traveling at that time, we just decided to kind of pick up and go. So we flew, it was literally only like an hour and a half to fly from in Italy. I think we left from Pisa to come to Tirana, the capital city here. And we've been living here ever since. And it has just been absolutely amazing. It has more than lived up to the expectations that we had and completely surpassed them. Uh, One of the
Wow.
beautiful things about holding a US passport is that you can literally just arrive by plane, train, automobile, whatever, and um, you can stay for 12 months. There's no specific
Mm.
extra paperwork documentation that you have to fill out to stay as a tourist for 12 months. And like a lot of other places that we've been, we decided, well, we'll go and we'll check it out and, maybe give it a minimum of a month, but, maybe we'll stay for 3 to 6 months and see how we like it. And now that we have been here for longer than 6 months, we can't imagine leaving. So many wonderful things are developing here. We're considering staying a little longer.
Fantastic. So what do you point out as the highlights of Albania?
Oh, without a doubt, the biggest thing that has made Albania feel like home right away is the fact that everybody that we have met has been so wonderfully warm and welcoming.
Mhm.
We have made fast friends within our community, in just right here in our neighborhood, in church, meeting friends and arranging play dates in the park. And, just everybody that we've met has been so amazingly welcoming. It's just it made Albania feel like home, literally within the first couple of weeks that we had settled here. We knew
Wow,
right away this was a place that we were going to want to stay for a little longer.
nice. So is it a big expat community there, or are you talking that the locals are warm and welcoming as well?
Everybody. We've
Mm.
met quite a few foreign residents here in Albania, as well as the locals. And Albania is the first country to which we have moved where we didn't have the weeks, months, years of preparation to learn more about the history, the
Mhm.
geography, language. And that was where I really started to feel a little apprehensive. Um, my family and I have actually lived, this is the fifth different community language in which we've lived. And even before picking up and moving to Japan, which was going to be temporary just for myself and my husband, we studied a little bit of Japanese. I could say a few basic phrases, including, I don't speak the language, or, where is the bathroom?
Yeah.
Basic things to be able to get around. We did not speak a single word of Albanian before we landed in this country. And you know what? It didn't matter. In fact, I had been working with this really wonderful woman in a kitchen in Italy before we came here. And in the last week before our departure, she told me that, she had friends and family in Albania. And I was like, oh, wow, you speak Albanian too. I said, you have to teach me some of the language. And she said, oh, no, don't worry about it. She said, you can get along in Italian. You'll be just fine.
So what about English? Is there much English speaking?
Yes, that's the thing that's been so amazing. Not only are there so many Albanian residents here who are perfectly conversation, very fluent in English, but my Italian has also gotten a lot of practice here as well. There are
Fantastic.
lots of people here who speak some Italian, some Spanish. I've even carried on a few conversations in Japanese. Never in a million would I have expected that
No.
here in Albania.
No.
But
Oh,
even
wow.
among those of our neighbors here and our new friends who don't speak English or Italian, who only speak Albanian, there is such a welcoming effort and the patience with me in my learning of Albanian, and just making an effort to try and communicate using, pantomime and hand
Yeah.
signals and body language and writing down numbers and pointing and gesturing, whatever it takes. And we have some really, really lovely neighbors with whom I'm enjoying cooking classes and things like that, where we're just kind of still figuring things out. And
Yeah.
it's so much fun to be able to do that.
Oh, fantastic. So what about cost of living? What's cost of living like in Albania?
Oh, well, compared to many of the other places that we've lived around the world, the cost of living here in Albania is really reasonable. But like so many places around the world, too, it can really vary drastically.
Mhm.
Um, Average Albanian income is only around 400 or 450 euros per month. So the locals' cost of living and their um, expectations for expenses are significantly lower than many of us travelers would expect coming from other parts of the world. But like in many places, you can spend a little bit on things and you can spend a whole lot on things too.
Sure.
Is definitely a significant portion, especially along the coastline of the Adriatic, where cities are very touristy along
Mm.
the beaches, where there is the expectation that tourists are coming here to spend a lot of money. And so you can find um, living accommodations and food and shopping for everything from cheap knockoff black market kind of
Yeah, yeah.
stuff, all the way to serious high end fashion accessories and everything under the sun. There is the entire range. And living here in the capital city of Tirana, it's amazing to look around and see all of the trappings of modern living and the very drastic differences with which people are able to enjoy those things.
Oh, wow. So how far from the coast are you in the capital city?
Tirana is about 30 minutes from the closest beach city of Durrës,
Okay.
so it's not far at all.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, nice one. So look, every country, it doesn't matter where you go, they all have their pros and their cons. What would be the cons to Albania, the things to be aware of?
Um, well, I think here in Albania, it's one of the first places that we have lived where we have seen a really, really drastic gap between the lower and the higher income residents. There are beggars and people who are homeless on the streets. And like I said, there are, really wealthy and affluent parts of town, aspects of accommodations and shopping and food and things that are available. So there is a really, really wide range. Um, One of the things that I just love about Albanian culture is this sort of slow and laid back pace to life. And if there's one place that we have definitely seen that on a daily basis while we're just out and about strolling around the neighborhood, it's in the cafe culture. And I
Okay.
think even more so than in Italy, which is known for, outdoor
Mm.
cafes like that, Albania seems to have a really, really high ratio per capita of cafes to residents. There are sections of town where you can walk through, and there will literally be half a dozen cafes with seating spread out into the sunshine and the open air, one right after another, right after another.
Oh, well, that's calling me.
It's awesome, really incredible. And people will literally come and sit and hang out for hours over a cup of coffee. Nothing
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
But one of the challenges that I've also seen in that is that smoking is still really prevalent
Yeah.
in this country.
Mhm.
And so sometimes in navigating those outdoor cafes, it's important to make sure you get a seat upwind
Yeah.
if you don't want to, be caught in the billows of someone else's cigarette or cigar smoke.
Fair enough.
But
Yeah.
the tobacco is really cool too. I remember one of our first visits to an outdoor market, this amazing sprawl in the sunshine out in a local plaza, and the tobacco, as well as pipes and papers for rolling cigarettes, is sold in different batches out with the produce and the fish and the meat and everything. People pick their blends and they choose their quantities, and it was really amazing.
Part of the culture.
It really is. I
Yeah.
remember that being something that was a big surprise when my husband and I first moved to Japan so many years ago too, because smoking is really prevalent there as well.
Yeah.
And I was surprised to find things like cigarettes available in vending machines
Yeah.
in Japan. So it really is a unique aspect of the culture to find things like, pipes and
Yeah.
tobacco sold in bulk in outdoor markets, just like produce around
Yeah.
here. It's really,
Cool. Now, is there a big homeschooling community?
it's interesting because among locals, the concept of homeschooling is still kind of baffling.
Okay.
When my son and I are out during the day, people often look at me and say, "Well, why isn't he in school?"
Yeah.
Which again is something that we've become accustomed to in our world travels. Um, but getting to know me and knowing that I am a teacher by profession and my husband as well, and just getting to know us as people, I think many of the locals just see it. Oh, that's just something that those crazy Americans do.
Oh,
But
fantastic.
believe it or not, there is actually quite a community that we have found of other traveling or expat families here, some of whom are attending local international schools.
Yeah.
We often with parents who are teaching in the schools. In fact, there's a rather significant community of English, native English speaking teachers in some of the local international schools here in the capital city of Tirana.
Yeah.
So that's been exciting to be able to meet and make friends with some of those traveling families.
Well, you
And
certainly sound like you've made yourself at home there.
really have. And like I said, just being able to make friends with people who are out playing around in parks and stuff too. We have also met other homeschoolers and world schoolers too. And like I said, we really did just kind of start to feel at home so quickly here in Albania. We've also had the pleasure of playing host and tour guide to other traveling families who have come through Albania in the months since we arrived here. So
Oh,
that's been
lovely.
too.
Yeah. Well, look, I've got to ask you because I know it's your area of specialty. Tell us about the food in Albania.
Oh my goodness gracious. I would not have believed the amazing synergy of flavors and textures and the wonderful amalgamation of cuisines that have come together here in Albania. And it's in large part due to the geography and the history here in the region, which we're still studying and learning on a daily basis. But just as I said, we didn't know anything about the language or the history or the culture here of Albania. I didn't know anything about the food either. But what I did know was quite a bit about Italian cuisine, having studied there,
Yeah.
a bit about Greek food, and also about Turkish food. And all of those three countries have had a major influence on the cuisine coming together here in Albania, which is kind of centrally located in the middle
Yeah.
of those three. So the more I explore Albanian cuisine, the more I can see not only the sort of individual influences that those different major cuisines have had, but how they all come together to really help Albania create its own sort of unique personality among all of that. And it's really delicious.
Oh, nice. So what's a typical dish? Like if I was to go to a cafe and have lunch, what would be a typical dish that I might order?
Well, a couple of the dishes that we often have are really simple foods like tavadeo, which is a unique mixture and combination that can include meats, or it doesn't have to, tomatoes, bell peppers, onions, sometimes cheese, or furgues. That's another very similar one. But what's most amazing to me is I remember one of the very first times that I came together in my kitchen here in Albania with a neighbor to learn how to make tavadeo. It was like looking at a sampling of ingredients that I could have picked up just about anywhere in the world. Our mise en place looked like I was getting ready to put together some Mexican salsa or a salad in the Mediterranean or whatever. It was amazing. It was like, oh yeah, I have literally eaten all of these things before, but they come together in the most unique and flavorful way. It was really amazing.
Is it because of different spices or something they use, or just the combination of foods that they put together?
I think it's a combination of just unique preparations. Well, what I find unique, I'm learning more and more that it was really traditional here in the region, but there are not actually a lot of herbs and spices that are really common in Albanian cuisine too. What is most amazing is that there is so much seasonality, there is so much local, fresh, and seasonal produce that is used in the cuisine here in Albania. And it's important to remember that one of the reasons that we don't know a lot about Albania is that this country was closed off to the rest of the world because of the communist occupation that happened for so many generations. And so it's literally only in the last 30 years that this country has been open to the rest of the world. And that fact has really made Albania rely on what people can grow and produce here locally. And so it's been absolutely fascinating to learn so much about what produce is grown in which regions. And I have a little local market that's just practically around the corner from my house, where I can go and hang out several times a week. The shop owners are one of the many neighborhood families that have kind of adopted me and taken me under their wing. And I've had a chance to get to know and to meet some of the producers of the produce, the grains and the beans, the fruits and the vegetables, even poultry, like acquiring a locally grown organic turkey that we roasted for Christmas dinner, to know that it came from an Albanian farm. It's absolutely amazing. And the powerful flavors that are available in the fresh and seasonal and organic produce, because this was all people had to rely on. It's just the most powerful, the most amazing, the most impactful. It's exciting.
Yeah. I can certainly see, hear, and feel your passion, Karen, when you're talking about your food and that. And I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your kitchen classroom as well, where we could possibly tap into and draw on some of that passion that you've got.
Well, yes, as I said, I have been a food lover all my life. And at our school in Japan, I was really able to help bridge the gap from cooking just being one of those things that I personally love to do and share with introducing food, cooking, and the preparation of snacks and meals as an exercise in connecting all aspects of education so that by the time we sold our school to start our full-time travels, we were literally cooking lunch every single day with the children and sometimes together with the families of the students in our school. And this was for our preschool programs for children between the ages of 2 and 6. And so while I am passionate about early childhood education, I'm even more passionate about encouraging parents to take advantage of the learning opportunities that are literally available at every single meal right there in their very own home. And that's what we do at our kitchen classroom because we all are excited about learning and we all have to eat every day. And so what we do is we take advantage of the learning that we're doing among the various global cuisines as we travel. We take advantage of the different multi-sensory experiences that food provides and flavor and texture and really just get in there and get our hands messy cooking and mixing and measuring and all those different things to bring together language and math and geography and kitchen science. So it's so much fun. And we just create wonderful meals and we really enjoy sharing that with our fun food fans in our kitchen classroom.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I'll be putting a link to our kitchen classroom with this video and along with the podcast as well, so that we can all get in and draw on some of that passion that you've got and get our hands dirty amongst it as well. I'm going to have to wrap it up here, Karen, but I thank you so much for coming on and having a chat with us today, teaching us all about Albania and sharing your passion. You've got a beautiful energy. I thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It has been an absolute pleasure.
And might be knocking on your door in Albania.
All right. Well, seriously, when you're in the region, feel free to shoot me a message and let me know. I actually have members of our Play with Your Food community who reached out to me to say, hey, we're coming through, we're going to be in the neighborhood. And we have had students who, even just passing through for a day or two, that came into our kitchen classroom here in Albania to have a hands-on food and culture and language lesson. So
Beautiful.
I absolutely encourage that.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you once again, and thank you everyone for joining us here tonight. We'll see you next week.